Coffee. It's the second most consumed beverage in the world after tea. From growing to drying to grinding to serving, the journey of a coffee seed is a busy one. So whether you prefer a latte, cappuccino, flat white, or just have it as it comes, there's a rich history behind your morning coffee. It starts life as a seed, planted and grown into a coffee tree. Once grown, it will develop cherries, which are harvested one of two ways. The first method sees the skin and pulp separated and put in water to separate by weight. Then they are transported to a fermentation tank and left to develop that rough, familiar coffee bean texture. In the second method, the grower spreads the cherries out on a large surface and leaves them to sun-dry until it loses moisture and develops the rough texture. Now the beans are ready, they're exported and taste tested at every step by professional tasters who analyse the samples and determine if the coffee is fit for wider sale to be ground, prepared and served in coffee shops all around the country. Most independent coffee shops have their own product, their own coffee bean that really puts their stamp on the coffee world. One business that took it a step further is Paddy & Scott's, based in Ipswich, a roastery who operate their own coffee farm in Kenya. I'll let their Head of Coffee Excellence, David Lane, explain.
So I am Head of Coffee Excellence for Paddy & Scott's. So my main roles are ensuring that the quality through all our customers and our accounts is to a certain standard, and also managing any queries that they might have. So I literally drive around the country at the moment, not quite as much. Yeah. And basically customer retention, that sort of thing, keeping the customers happy. What do they need? But my main focus up till now has been mainly on the training front of things, where it's just been a case of making sure that all our customers are producing great coffee to a great standard, because it not only looks good on them, it also looks good on us.
So how long have you been working in Coffee Excellence, and how many of those years have you been working for Paddy & Scott's?
For Paddy & Scott's, coming on to 3 years in September. I've actually been in the coffee industry for about 9 years now. I actually fell into it a bit randomly because I got made redundant from a first aid company that I was working for. So I literally just started working at a local Costa that was basically becoming a new Costa at the time. I think I became assistant manager within like 2 months. Yeah, and then I ended up actually opening up 4 separate Costas within a year.
So whereabouts are you based?
Me personally, I live in Lincoln.
So with the Paddy & Scott's head office being in Ipswich and you being in Lincoln, obviously it's quite far away, do you head down there very much?
It's very rare that I need to go to the office. I do enjoy going to the office when I need to, but my role is really field-based more than anything anyway, so I don't necessarily need to be in the office. It's only once in a blue moon.
So what do you feel sets Paddy & Scott's apart from any other privately owned coffee business?
They're just a sort of company that embrace personality, they embrace individuality, I guess you could say, and they want you to be you, and they encourage that rather than wanting you to be a very corporate robot. Even the interview process was all Paddy & Scott's as well. So I've worked for lots and lots of different companies out there, and you tend to find a lot of really sort of corporate sort of mentality of things, where it's a case of, this is how we do things, stick to this or you're fired, basically. And it becomes a bit repetitive, you become a robot, that sort of thing. And I saw the interview process for Paddy & Scott's come up just around almost 3 years ago. And it was a case of, we want you to create a 2-minute video of something that shows your personality. And I was like, oh God, right, okay. Sounds great. I have no idea what to do. At the time, I was really into my boxing and kickboxing and things like that. So I incorporated don't know if that's a word, incorporated.
It is now.
Incorporated, there you go. Coffee and boxing into a video, and I kind of had like the Rocky Balboa theme tune in the background, of like, you know, lifting weights with coffee bags and stuff like that. You know, it just worked really well, and I made it look like I was getting ready for a competition, and finished it with some like latte art in a cup, that sort of stuff. And it had like a little slow-mo at the end where I'm just like, you know, fisting the air type thing. And it's really a case of they really do care. You know, they do want to do a difference. They want to make a difference within the coffee industry, rather than just being like, okay, we buy this coffee, here's your coffee, thanks a lot, see you later type thing. This is like, oh no, let's buy some coffee from them, but how can we make this beneficial to other people as well?
So have you ever visited the farm in Kenya?
So I did visit the farm. I think it was, I want to say it was September 2018. I think I visited the farm, which is run by this lovely family called the Muchomba family. And they just welcomed you with open arms. As soon as I arrived, all their wives and sisters and daughters and everything are just standing at the door ready for you with these plates of samosas. You know, just really lovely place. You have to be interested, obviously, in the culture and everything. You have to be interested in coffee, that sort of thing. And I can hand on heart say, like, if you are interested in this industry, like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to go out there and actually see it in person, and it will change your eyes, the way you see things, on how, you know, it will completely open you up to the coffee world, basically. Visit a coffee farm in one of the coffee places around the coffee belt.
So you just mentioned the coffee belt. Would you mind going into a bit of detail about what the coffee belt is?
Is basically where coffee grows. Is the easiest way to explain it. It grows in a very specific region, if you look on the globe, between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. And it's really, you've got to have perfect sort of environment to grow coffee. So you need access to water, you need sort of moisture, you need heat, you need shade, you need all these different things. So this is why deserts and places like that aren't going to work. So it's really, if anyone clicked on Google coffee belt, you would see exactly what I mean. And it's literally just a split layer of where coffee actually grows.
So I know everyone's sick of talking about it and hearing about it, but I do have to ask, how has the pandemic impacted your role and the farmers and just the business as a whole?
As a business, the whole side of things is really, it's a lot of hotels, bars, restaurants, that sort of side of things. So without them buying coffee, because they're not even open, obviously that's going to affect us quite harshly, really. So this is where we implemented starting up the web sales a little bit more. So I guess it was, in one sense, it was a good thing to start thinking about other ways we can help, and, you know, other ways we can sell coffee, rather than just to bars, hotels and restaurants. But and we actually have a coffee out there at the moment, a blend, which is called Lunchbox Coffee, and it actually promotes, for every bag of this coffee that is sold, is basically a meal for a child working on the coffee farms along the coffee belt. Good for the company in the sense they can think outside the box and still be able to sell coffee, and our, you know, online sales have gone through the roof compared to what they used to be. But now we need to get back to us both, really. And if anything, that would be a good thing once hopefully everything goes back to normal, because we'll have not only the online, but also what we had before. So hopefully that'll be a good thing. But we need it to get back to where it was before we can even start thinking about, you know, traveling all over the country properly. The farmers themselves, that's going to carry on, you know, how it was. They can't just stop growing the trees and the cherries and things like that. So we have stocks of coffee, shall we say, where we kept having to, you know, it's like an agreement, basically. So we have to keep buying this coffee. I don't think it affected them quite as badly as it did, because the population is a little slightly different in the way they do things. Is slightly different as well. So this family would just stay on their farm, stay together, sort of thing, keep the farm going, and it is family run as well. So they have their own bubble.
So perhaps the big question: what's next? What's in the future for Paddy and Scott's? Any new roasts or blends on the way?
We are working on a few things. Me personally, I'm not saying this is or isn't going ahead, but I would like to work on something which is potentially 100% Robusta coffee, which will, for those of you that don't know the difference between Arabica and Robusta, Arabica is known for your more, I guess you could say, luxury, but sweeter, smoother, but it actually has about half the amount of caffeine as a Robusta coffee would. It's rare that you do find 100% Robusta because it is so strong and has so much caffeine in it, but there are companies out there that do it, and they do quite well. And it's something I would like to look into personally. We are looking at also 100% Kenyan coffee, so we have a lot of blends out there. But if we were to do 100% Kenyan, but that would be a very expensive luxury coffee as well, because it's straight from the farm. You know, it's AA quality, so AA quality, and it's, you know, super nice, very juicy, very fruity, but expensive.
Yeah, really one for the coffee enthusiasts.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm not saying this is or isn't happening, but it's something that we're definitely looking into.
What came first, bean or brew? Well, there's no official backstory, but coffee can be traced back to ancient Ethiopia. Legend says that a goat herder named Kaldi discovered it after his goats ate berries from a certain tree and became so energetic that they did not want to sleep at night. Kaldi reported his findings to the abbot of a local monastery, who made a drink with the berries and found that it kept him alert through the long hours of evening prayer. The abbot shared this discovery with the other monks at the monastery, and knowledge of the berries began to spread. Slowly, word moved east, and coffee reached the Arabian Peninsula, where it began to be cultivated, traded, and enjoyed in homes and coffee houses, or khavekena. These public spaces were a new forum for patrons to enjoy coffee, engage in conversation, listen to music, and keep current on the news. These coffee houses actually became so important for exchanging information that they were often referred to as schools of the wise. Thousands of pilgrims visiting Mecca spread this knowledge around the world, and it wasn't long before coffee came to Europe. However, some people didn't take too kindly to this strange new beverage, calling it the bitter intervention of Satan. In fact, the local clergy of Venice condemned coffee in 1615, and many Catholics pressed Pope Clement VIII to denounce the beverage. He tried it for himself before making an ultimate decision, and found it so satisfying that he gave it papal approval and decreed that Satan's drink is so delicious that it would be a pity to let the infidels have exclusive use of it. While coffee shops in Europe rose in popularity as centres of social activity, penny universities sprung up in England because for a penny you can buy a cup of coffee and engage in stimulating conversation. Over in America in 1773, the Boston Tea Party changed everything for coffee consumption. American colonists revolted against King George III's high tax on tea, and coffee became the American preference. Ever since, coffee farms have been cropping up all over the coffee belt, and coffee has become the second most sought commodity in the world after crude oil. And just like crude oil, there are big companies eager to capitalise on its popularity. Corporate giants such as Coca-Cola and Nestle have invested millions in big high street coffee shop names like Starbucks, Cafe Nero and Costa Coffee. And these names aren't just competing in the business sense of the word. Every year, Starbucks hosts its Barista Championship competition, while Nero and Costa have their own Barista of the Year competitions. No, it's not just who can steam milk hotter than your co-workers. Costa's two-time Barista of the Year competitor, Ayla Kelly, explains.
What is the Barista of the Year competition? It's a competition that runs throughout every Costa store in the world, and it's basically a way to demonstrate the 3 P's of Costa, which is pride, passion, and personality. So for the first couple of rounds, it's mainly technical ability. So you'll make a couple of core drinks, and you'll have to calibrate the machines, the grinders with the grinders, within a certain amount of time. And there'll usually be either some sort of quiz where you get to show off your obscure Costa knowledge, and as you go on in the stages, you get the opportunity to design, make, and present your own custom drink. So it's an excellent creative outlet, and it just lets you sort of show everybody in Costa what you've got.
All of that was obviously such a big, long process. How did you decide that was something that you wanted to dedicate all that time to?
The coffee making aspect has always been the favourite part of my job. I like kind of the creativity and the passion that goes into making coffee, and kind of the personal stamp that you can put on things, as well as I don't think people realise how complicated it is to make coffee. It's very satisfying to learn a skill like that and to become good at it, and for people to kind of appreciate that skill. And I wanted to be able to show that skill off because I'm also quite competitive. It was just a really good creative outlet and a way to kind of demonstrate my passion for the job and the business in general, really.
Before you got the job as a barista, did you have any idea how complex it all was, all the different stages?
Absolutely not. But I remember before I even worked at Costa, I used to like to go to Costa anyway because I've always been a bit of an OG fan. But I used to like to sit near the coffee machine and just watch them as they were making coffee. It just fascinated me, A, how fast they could go, and B, just how much went into making one single drink, and kind of the care and the attention to detail that people go to just making your morning coffee. It's fascinating.
How long have you been working for Costa?
At the end of this month, it will be my 7-year Costa-versary.
So you mentioned your custom drink. What did you make?
Well, I've actually competed in the competition twice. The first time I did it, I can't remember what I called it, but I made it with hazelnut milk, and there was caramel and chocolate elements to it. It was basically a take on a Kinder Bueno, and I had these really cool chocolate lattices that went on top and then they melted into it. It was all very Instagrammable. The second year I did, it was a take on cocktails, so I called it a coffee cherry mocktail, because obviously coffee comes from coffee cherries, but then I used that and incorporated lots of cherry flavours in it. So I had fresh cherries and cherry syrup, and I think cherry juice as well. And then I muddled it together with some mint leaves, some agave, and obviously a shot of espresso. Shook it up all together in an espresso shaker, and then in the glass I had mint sugar around the rim, and then the drink in there, and I made a little garnish with various fruits that was supposed to imitate the stages of coffee cherry as it ripens. So it was a green one, a slightly red one, and then a very red one. So it was very aesthetically pleasing, and tasted pretty good too.
So, if coffee is really this popular, why can't you just go into a cafe and ask for just a coffee? Well, through the years, baristas and coffee enthusiasts the world over have thought of new ways to serve it. Whether it be an Italian cappuccino, a Spanish cortado, or a flat white from down under, no one seems to agree what the best one is.
Normally, I get the double espresso all the time, or single, depends.
So I personally like flat whites for a specific reason. I like strong coffee. If I was to make espresso-based coffee, it'd not be a flat white.
I like a hot chocolate, extra hot and extra chocolatey, because I like things extra sweet. Sometimes, instead of hot chocolate, I'll get a mocha.
I'm partial to a flat white. If I'm anywhere else but work, I'll probably take it just as it is, because I like to appreciate different blends and how it affects the flavour and everything. My rocket fuel for when I'm working is a coconut milk flat white with hazelnut, which is just...
a large mocha, but I do like a cappuccino now and then. Just depends on how I'm feeling.
My favourite coffee is an iced coconut latte with an extra shot and sugar-free gingerbread syrup.
I get a white mocha because who doesn't like chocolate?
I love a strong white coffee with plenty of sugar. It's easy, it's simple, it's quick, and it definitely gives me the right kick.
I like cappuccino. Cappuccino is my favourite coffee. I love it because it's nice and strong, but it's also milky, and the chocolate on the top is really nice as well. It's a treat.
So there you have it. There's a lot more to coffee than just drinking too much instant in the office and typing 100 words of nonsense per minute before crashing into a deep nap at your desk while your boss looks at you and thinks, why? And my favourite coffee? Black Americano. Sweet and simple, just like me.